미래의 부자 여러분들 안녕하세요. 부자생각입니다. 구독과 좋아요, 알림 설정 부탁드립니다. 부자들의 5가지 비밀 두 번째 컨텐츠를 준비했습니다. 오늘의 주제는 타라 웨스트오버의 5가지 삶의 자세와 습관입니다. 타라 웨스트오버는 배움의 발견 저자입니다. 미국의 몰몬교 근본주의자 가정에서 막내딸로 태어난 타라 웨스트오버는 16살 이후부터 공교육을 받았습니다. 케임브리지 대학에서 박사학위를 받기까지 자신의 자아를 찾는 모습을 그린 회고록이 책 배움의 발견입니다. 배움의 발견은 뉴욕타임즈 최장기 베스트셀러로 등극했으며 오바마 대통령과 빌 게이츠 마이크로소프트 전 회장의 추천 도서입니다. 이제부터 타라 웨스트오버의 5가지 습관에 대해서 본격적으로 알아보겠습니다. 첫 번째는 미래가 긍정적일 것이라는 신념을 가져라는 것입니다. 타라 웨스트오버는 공교육을 받지 않던 어린 시절부터 결국 잘 될 것이라는 믿음을 잃지 않았습니다.
Not a particularly religious person anymore, but for me, I really love that concept of faith. I title one of my chapters of my book after the scripture in Hebrews 11 that says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And for me, I think that was what I had to have faith in for a while, which is a future or a world or a life or a set of relationships or a way of feeling about myself, of feeling about other people that I'd never experienced, but I had to believe was out there. I had to believe that was a possible thing. And I don't know if that's a real form of resiliency. I was pretty much down and out for that year. But I think that concept of faith was very important to me as a means of recovery. To believe in something that I had not experienced. I had no idea if I would ever get to a place where I wanted my life, was happy with my life, even without my parents in it. And it was just a kind of faith, I think, to believe that was possible.
둘째는 여러분이 스스로에게 가장 훌륭한 선생님이라는 점을 기억하라는 것입니다.
My parents had this philosophy about learning, this kind of idea of education that was very much about individual responsibility, and I think that in some ways they took it a bit far, but I am grateful for it. You know, my dad would always say that you can teach yourself anything better than someone else can teach it to you. And I think you can take that as being disparaging of teachers, but I don't think you have to. I think that the bigger point is you could have a Nobel laureate in literature trying to teach you how to write, but if you didn't want to learn, I don't think you would learn as much as if you wanted to learn and just had a novel that was good, that you wanted to learn from. So I think sometimes our ideas about education have become very institutionalized and maybe a bit passive, and we started to forget that an education isn't the same thing as a school. And I really do believe that there's really nothing that can make up for the absence of individual buy-in, of really wanting to learn something. And that's something I'm grateful to my parents for.
In some ways, a lot of people have been convinced that they can't learn things. I think the institutional idea of education is so strong that if you want to learn something, you need to get a degree, you need to go through a course, you need to have all these things. And I think if I could try to convince people that you can learn things, you are able to teach yourself things, it can happen. And probably you might even be able to teach yourself something better than you would be taught if you just subjected yourself to an institution. And I really like institutions. I like teachers. I like having access to smart people. But I like to think of them more as consultants. Like you should go to a teacher and say, what's out there? Tell me what's out there so I can decide what to learn or what to read or what I want to. So I think I would try to convince someone to disregard the mythology that you need an institution to teach you things.
세 번째는 배움에 있어서 한계를 두지 말고 여러 가능성을 염두에 두고 능동적으로 학습하라는 것입니다.
I think that they probably were a bit misled about what an education is. And one of the things that when I talk to them now, I'm just not sure they really know there is an inherent respect for education, and they know it's a good thing. But it's hard for them to imagine what it might mean and what it might do because they don't know anyone in their town who had it, or who they just don't have a broad sense of what an education might do and where they might be able to go with it. And I knew this one woman who'd gone to Idaho State and dropped out after 2 semesters, and she studied communications. And I said to her, one thing I asked her who she knew that had a college degree from our town, and she said, I think some of our teachers had them, but that's it. That was the only person she could think of that she'd ever met who had a college education. And then I asked her why she wanted to study communications, or what she thought she might do with it. And she said, I don't know, I guess I thought I would be a TV presenter. And I think for her that was the only visible thing. She thought, well, communication, I mean, this is the thing that you can do with communication. She'd never met anyone else who had done any of the hundreds of jobs you could do with that degree. And so I think sometimes it can be a very narrow idea of education that people have, and I didn't have that, and I, in some ways, am kind of grateful that I didn't.
네 번째는 다양한 견해를 수용함으로써 스스로의 주관을 형성해 나가라는 것입니다.
I think it was a slow trip for me from I think I'm always going to be a bit susceptible to my dad's. There are always going to be moments where I hear things and they will sound true to me because of the number of times I heard them and because of the age I was when I heard them. And I am always going to have to stop and think about that and try to bring in other perspectives that I've gained since then. But it's not a completely clean, it's not like every day I got slightly more independent from my dad. There were a lot of moments where I would go back the other way and I would see things the way he did, and then slowly things get chipped away. You can feel like you've read enough and you know enough about this that you know what you think. It's a problem everyone has. It's kind of a universal experience. I think part of what it means to grow up is learning to define yourself, both in connection to and in contradistinction to your parents. And to what degree you challenge the worldview that you're given, for every person that's going to be different. But I think there's something about getting access to the different perspectives and weighing them. And maybe you'll come out the same way you started. Maybe you'll read everything and decide, my parents were right about everything. But it's important that you go through that process, I think, before you make that decision. If you make that decision and don't go through the process, I don't think you can really claim the opinions as yours. They really belong to other people.
마지막으로 일기를 쓴다는 점입니다. 일기 쓰기 습관은 타라 웨스트오버가 어려운 시절 든든한 우군이 되어줬습니다.
This habit that I got from Mormonism, actually, of journaling, which I think is incredibly helpful and psychologically helpful. I don't know, I can't function without doing it now. I'm so used to it. But I don't know. There were moments I felt like I wasn't gonna make it. There were a lot of them. And I would say there were, again, I can't think of my life in terms of spoilers, so I'm really sorry. There was a moment in my life where I discovered that my parents, I'd confronted them about my brother's violence, and their way of dealing with it was to tell people I was possessed. And I found this out quite a long while after they were telling people this. And I was at that point in my life completely incapable of conceiving of a future that I would want to have and live in and occupy where that was the case. I just wanted to just throw it in.
이번 영상에서는 타라 웨스트오버의 5가지 삶의 자세와 습관을 알아보았습니다. 내용이 유익하셨다면 좋아요와 구독 부탁드립니다. 감사합니다.